Let's join Heather and our licensed counselor, John Barberio, as they talk about this week's high leverage practice.
Welcome to Little Bits of TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, essential strategies designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired, because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is Little Bits of TLC. Looking for something that actually fits your life? TLC University is here for that. Each week, we spotlight something different. A webinar with real-world insights, a hangout-style interview, and a hands-on workshop or a Q&A where we answer your questions. It's flexible, it's self-paced, and most come with CEUs. So whether you're looking to grow, reflect, or just listen in, there's something here for you. And it's all in one place. university.thresholdlearning.org. That's where you'll find show notes, professional blogs, a full catalog of ACE-accredited courses, and downloadable resources. It all just keeps growing. So whether you're walking the dog, commuting, or taking a breather between the daily grind, TLC University meets you where you are. Head to university.thresholdlearning.org and check out what's new this week. See you then.
Teach social behaviors. Teachers should explicitly teach appropriate interpersonal skills, including communication and self-management, aligning lessons with classroom and school-wide expectations for student behavior. Prior to teaching, teachers should determine the nature of the social skill challenge. If students do not know how to perform a targeted social skill, direct social skill instruction should be provided until mastery is achieved. If students display performance problems, the appropriate social skill should initially be taught. Then emphasis should shift to prompting the student to use the skill and ensuring the appropriate behavior accesses the same or a similar outcome, for example, is reinforcing to the student as the problem behavior.
This week, we're talking about high leverage practice number 9, teaching social behaviors. And this includes social, emotional, and behavioral skills. So, John, for you in your practice, what does this look like?
For me, I think it starts with awareness. This isn't even only applicable inside of classrooms, right? This can be with coworkers, this can be even in relationships. It first starts with awareness of who you are, what your expectations are for other people. Maybe you know that person that is high energy, maybe not even anxious, but just excitable. Well, they walk into a room and they'll bring the whole energy up, right? And it's not something that we think of consciously. We just think like, hey, I'm a little stressed right now. Why? Or even that, that really quiet, just discerning person walks into a room and it kind of brings the mood down a little bit, not in a bad way, but we're just not going to be as loud. Just being aware of how our bodies are kind of reacting to other people. It's not something that we think about, right, throughout the day. But I think just bringing awareness to that is where we would start, right?
Yeah, I like that because the examples you're sharing is not even just within myself of I'm
Mm,
noticing myself responding a certain way. You're also calling out how different either people or situations like social dynamics are impacting what's going on around me that I then maybe consciously or just sort of automatically kind of showing up or responding in a certain kind of way.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even as simple as let's talk about, in a classroom, a 6'5", 250-pound male is going to have a different, I don't want to say interaction, but the students are going to receive that teacher differently from a, 5'5" woman, right? And it's not because one's a better teacher than the other. It's just the sheer presence that they have. And I think even personally in my practice, I'm a 5'10" male. So I know when I'm dealing with little kids, their interaction with me can be different. And just even being aware of that is where I would tell people just to start.
Yeah. I think when I look back through all of the social skills instruction that I have run as an educator through my practice or even different programs that we're working with districts to develop and we're integrating some of these strategies within like their instructional practices, it there really does seem to be like an awareness piece that
Mm,
is where it starts, right? And so if it's the, physical presence that I have in any given space, I think sometimes we work with staff who maybe underestimate the impact that just their presence has, and not in the
Mm.
use of like proximity control or anything like that, but truly just like because I am in this space, certain interactions may or may not happen in the way that they would if I wasn't. And I
Yeah.
think as educators, we see those social dynamics shift. We know if this kid is absent today or if, this situation happened in this kind of way,
Yeah.
right? Like we kind of see the social dynamics, but I don't think that we're always fully aware of all of the different components that go
Mhm.
into really like truly social dynamics.
Yeah, because it's so abstract, right? It's
Hmm.
not something that we, see written out. It's something that we feel, but we don't often even notice it. To nerd out a little bit with mirror neurons, where there's something internally that kids aren't even thinking about. They're constantly checking on other people. Really, their bodies are just scanning for safety. And so
Yep.
they're learning who is safe, who isn't. And it can be something as simple as when we make eye contact. It can be something as simple as, is the rest of the class loud? That will either elevate or bring down other children because they're just looking around trying to find who's safe. And it's not something that they're even conscious of. There's some students where if you put on music, they're going to be stressed out during a test. Other kids are going to be calmed down. And I think it's just knowing those underlying things and really kind of paying attention to just the body language. This is from elementary to high school,
Hmm.
just noticing the what do we call it nowadays? The aura of the room.
Yeah, I think that is so spot on because again, I think as educators, we see those things, but we aren't always attributing all of the pieces to it. I mean, I'm thinking of examples in my practice. I love how you're framing it around safety, right? I'm just scanning to see, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I
Mm,
safe? I've worked with so many staff who do not understand why students may kind of naturally gravitate toward either more aggressive, more,
mm,
vocally, verbally forward types of peers because to the staff, they're perceiving those actions as unsafe.
mm,
But given that students, either community situation, background, like there's some things that are saying, no, those people will step for me.
mm,
Like, I may not like how they interact and I may not want them to interact with me like that, but I know if they interact that way, they can hold their own and that means they can hold their own for me too. And there is
mm.
a safety piece to that, but the perspective of the staff looking at that behavior and the perspective of the student looking at the exact same behavior, they are perceiving it completely different.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that circles back to if we don't know how we're perceiving a situation, we're not even close to perceiving how another student is going to be perceiving the situation. And even walking into a classroom stressed for no fault of your own, rough day, not having it, don't want to be there, kids are going to pick up on that 100%.
Yep.
It's amazing how perceptive kids are to what's going on internally in us that we don't notice. And it does go back to, again, those mirror neurons. Like they have their brain is on high alert for who is safe. And they don't even know that. So even a teacher walking in who is, kids may love this teacher, something inside that kid, and it's not spoken, it's not conscious, it's like, oh, they're not okay. Well, if they're not okay, today's not okay, so this isn't okay. And the learning, the distractions, that day is going to look different.
Yeah. I mean, I know that especially like working in my alternative ed, honestly, like I've worked in emotional behavioral disorders the far majority of my career.
Mm,
And it is like the sixth sense for
mm,
things that you think you are hiding. It does not matter how well you think you are
ah,
hiding it. You are not. They will see it.
yes.
And if you have a good rapport with them, they're going to call you out on it. And so I've
Mm,
had multiple students be like, yo, miss, you don't seem all right.
I love that.
And be like, you're right. I'm not. Like, thank you for
Mm.
calling me on that. Like, can I own that today? Is it okay if I'm just not okay today? Right.
And that's
And to
awesome,
like,
Heather, to call that out, to name that, because if you then say, no, I'm fine. Well, now you've just lied, right? And
BS, right?
the kid is noticing, well, what I'm perceiving in my body and what I'm hearing with my mouth is not consistent. So something's off here.
Hmm.
And I tell, this is for what I do in practice with parents a lot of times, but especially with teachers, like you don't have to be the most powerful person in the room. If you're off and the kids know it and you're lying to them, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that
That
you named that.
Well, it's that incongruence, right? If I'm
Mm,
noticing
that's
something
it.
and I'm fairly well attuned, right? And I think sometimes staff are not as willing maybe to notice how well attuned students who may be completely off on the regular,
Mm,
how well attuned they still very much so are to their surroundings, to people, to the norms of the people in their lives, right? Like how people typically show up and noticing that something's a little off, even for students who, staff would characterize as either volatile or
mm,
unpredictable or those kinds of things, because that's not making sense to the people outside of that student.
yeah.
That doesn't mean that kid is not observant. They're not highly aware. And I know like you do a lot of work with folks who've walked through some really tough stuff in very short
Mm.
periods of time, right? And a lot of times I find those students are the most attuned to the
Oh,
like
yeah.
tiniest of imperceptible details that just it's automatic to them. Like they just see it and it's almost like they can't not see it.
Yeah.
So then to like dismiss it or be like not a big thing or like no your perception is off. Ugh, ouch.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't even, I don't know if we've touched on this, but teachers are there to impart information, right?
Mhm.
And that's the goal. There's a broader goal. And so I think it can be hard to even just take the time to really understand, like, well, if socially my classroom is not connected, learning's not going to happen. And I've messed this up in groups all the time where I've thought, well, we just need to get this piece of information so we can check on homework, yada, yada, yada. And I've totally forgotten to do a check in. I've not checked in with myself, and I'll walk out of that meeting run over,
Mhm.
right? And it's all because I'm thinking content, content, content. But at the end of the day, we cannot pull the human factor and the relational factor. I mean, if you want to go all the way evolutionary, like we were made to be in a tribe, right? Being alone meant dying. Being alone meant not finding a mate, not getting food. Tuk Tuk's going to get hit by a rival gang. And so that's still in us today where we're looking around for who are my people? And when there's, like you said, incongruency, that sends off all sorts of alarms, even in teenagers.
So I know in my practice, one of the things that I'll do to help students kind of see what parts, I guess, like are necessary to pay attention to at any given time. When I'm teaching social skills, we're talking about like this is a skill. But this is how this shows up in the classroom versus this is how
Mm,
this shows up like at recess or in the lunchroom versus this is how this shows up like in the community. So the example I always use is like raising your hand, right? Because most of my guys will either blurt out or not be engaging. And so
mhm,
raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand, right? So the feedback that they receive on the regular. So in the classroom, you may need to raise your hand and wait for, time to pass and for you to be, engaged by, typically the teacher or whoever is kind of like running whatever that activity may be. But in a cafeteria, if you sit there and raise your hand, or if you're on the
mm,
playground and you're up on the monkey bar somewhere and you stop and raise your hand, is that actually going to get the response that you need if you need to like help with something in that moment? Well, maybe there it's not actually raise your hand. Maybe it would be go to an adult and wait,
mm.
and that would be like the equivalent. And the same thing, like if I'm driving and we have a flat tire and we're stuck on the side of the road, please do not stand next to your car and raise your hand. Like at least in the United States, that's not going to result in someone pulling over to assist you, or at least most likely not. And so it's
Yeah.
like, so there's this skill. I need to, wait patiently for my turn to engage in,
Mm,
whatever that is. If it's directed or if it's something that I need, I'm kind of soliciting assistance for, that's a skill. But
mm,
how that shows up in different contexts, I mean, that's completely different. So that's like needing to be aware of that situation to know then how does this skill need to show up so that, I'm really engaging in it in a way that I'm going to get what I need or they are as well. So I'm curious with all of the work that you've done teaching social behaviors, is there anything that you've noticed that you're like, that's not actually teaching them anything?
mm.
Like, what are some of those fail points that you've seen in your practice or maybe in kind of collaboration with other practitioners that's like, yeah, you're teaching social behaviors, but you're not actually teaching that. That's not sticking, or that's maybe not as effective as what we would hope it would be.
Yeah. You know what? I haven't put much consideration to that, but right offhand, something does come to mind, and I think I'm going to have a hard time explaining this, but let me give it a shot. I think when we teach from and I'll explain this purely behavioral standpoint
Hmm.
of if I raise my hand, then I get a reward. There's benefit to that, right? Like we don't want the students who are blurting things out to be the ones who are heard and the ones who are raising their hands to be ignored, right? We
Mhm.
do want to enforce the behaviors that we want, right? But if it's purely do your homework so you get A's,
Mm.
and this is actually a personal thing, is like, well, I get an A and I still have to do the more work, like,
Right.
and I get to play football less. So I think teaching it purely from a do these things that are socially acceptable, which we say is law, but take that to another,
Mhm.
maybe not even another country, maybe another state, maybe even another neighborhood down the street.
Different classroom.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when we teach these, like, do this to be this, it kind of puts your value and worth in how are you performing in your social context and not so much, well, who are you? Right. So,
Mm.
like, the student who has a hard time raising a hand is probably also the student who interrupts his friends, right? When they're talking. Maybe it's ADD, maybe it's, we could label it, but won't change it. But getting the student to know, like, hey, your voice is important. You want to get your voice out there. I love that about you. But let's let other people have a voice, and approaching it more from like letting them understand your voice matters, but so do other people. And when you put your voice in front of other people, you're saying you're more important, right? And not just you get a treat for not interrupting today.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I think so often this high leverage practice can get kind of conflated or mashed up with providing constructive feedback for
Mm,
performance. If that's academics or social emotional behavioral, kind of either way, this is truly separate from. And I really appreciate you calling that out because some folks will think, oh, I teach social behaviors by using, PBIS or positive behavior
mm,
interventions and supports. Not necessarily, and you're right, like, there are some not great things that have come from leveraging strictly behavioral strategies without really informing the social application, like, how that's actually making sense. It's
mm.
really you're just using, like, these behavioral pieces to draw kind of bumpers or guardrails around what would be kind of expected
Yeah.
interactions, but you're not really creating the context within that why is going to sit.
Yeah.
And the why, in my opinion, is really what drives that social engagement. It's also part of how I've engaged with a ton of different cultures in a bunch of different ways. And it's all been consistent for me because
Mm.
I'm understanding kind of the why that's behind those different styles of interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, John, thank you so much for engaging in this conversation with me, teaching social behaviors. It is very nuanced. And
Mm,
so I don't know that we're leaving any major, takeaways or actionables with this conversation. But if nothing else, like my hope is that people who are listening to this understand that it is not a clean, clear cut curriculum. You do not just
mm.
pick up something and run this social skill and then, your kids are going to be cured. It's so much bigger than that. And if we can
Yeah.
acknowledge kind of our role in that, as well as kind of the context in which we're situated, it's going to be so much more likely that our kids are going to be walking away with skills that are useful well beyond just our classroom. So thank you for engaging
Absolutely.
in this with me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Heather.
Working in a self contained, alternative education, therapeutic, or correctional classroom? Project Onward is a 6-strand cohort based project designed to help you build a strong, structured program for complex students who need extra specialized support. You'll get practical tools to set up clear routines, strengthen engagement, manage behavior, and plan instruction that actually fits the splintered needs of your students. By the end, you'll walk away with a complete, ready to use program that has been adapted to your local needs. Led by Heather Bolchko, Lathrell Eisler, Jonathan Barbario, and Manny Wasias, Project Onward blends proven strategies with vetted experience, helping you move forward with confidence. If you're creating something from the ground up or looking to update what you've got, this project gives you the structure and clarity to do it well. If you support students with low incident needs, Project Base helps you design a consistent classroom built just for them. And if you're working in general ed or resource settings with behavioral challenges, Project Thrive gives you the tools to work with, not against, the flow of your classroom. Visit university.thresholdlearning.org to meet the team and get started today. Let's move onward, together.
One of the significant challenges students with disabilities face is navigating social interactions with both adults and peers in appropriate ways. Regardless of a student's specific disability or the primary focus of their individualized education program, or IEP, incorporating social skill instruction into the daily curriculum is essential. Just as we teach academic skills, social skills require direct, explicit instruction, repeated practice, and positive, specific feedback when students demonstrate the targeted behaviors. Effective social skill instruction relies on several key components validated by research. These include assessing and identifying students' social skill patterns using a structured tell, show, practice approach, and evaluating students' mastery and ability to generalize these skills across various settings. While many quality social skill curriculums exist, they often assume that students have a skill deficit, meaning they don't know how to perform the appropriate behavior. This approach may be suitable for students with moderate to severe disabilities, such as autism spectrum disorder or intellectual disabilities. However, for students with mild disabilities, social skill challenges are more often performance problems. These students know what social skill they should use, but may choose inappropriate behaviors because these behaviors lead to outcomes that reinforce the problem, such as avoiding uncomfortable situations. To be effective, social skill instruction must match the lesson focus to the student's specific challenge, whether it's a skill deficit or a performance issue. Teachers should first identify and define the social skill and clarify when it should be used. Then, they should discuss the emotions or triggers that lead to inappropriate behavior, demonstrate both correct and incorrect responses, and have the student practice the appropriate behavior through role playing. Teaching social skills in a small group setting is generally effective, but the real challenge lies in helping students generalize and maintain these skills over time and across different environments. Strategies such as teaching within the actual settings where the skills will be used, providing frequent prompts or reminders, and offering high rates of specific positive feedback are all critical for ensuring that students can apply their social skills successfully beyond the classroom. These approaches, grounded in empirical research, are crucial for fostering lasting social success in students with disabilities. Many students with disabilities, particularly those with emotional or behavioral disorders, autism spectrum disorder, and other low incident disabilities, face significant social skill deficits that impact their ability to fully engage in school and community settings alongside their peers. Special educators play a crucial role in identifying these key skill gaps and developing explicit instruction plans to teach social skills to mastery. Social behaviors encompass various domains, including communication with peers and adults, self management, and following classroom expectations. Teachers who establish consistent, organized, and respectful classroom environments, HLP 7, use diverse data sources, HLP 4, and collaborate with colleagues, HLP 1, and families, HLP 3, are well prepared to implement these practices effectively. However, it's the strategic use of explicit instruction, HLP 16, combined with high quality feedback, HLP 8 and 22, that truly enables students to learn and apply new social behaviors. This approach not only teaches students how to use these social skills, but also provides them with the feedback needed to gauge how well they are meeting expectations, fostering both academic and social success. Teachers who effectively teach social skills take a systematic and proactive approach. They begin by identifying students with social skills deficits, drawing from a variety of data sources, including systematic screeners, school wide disciplinary referrals, classroom observations, and input from families. This comprehensive data collection allows educators to pinpoint the specific types of social skills deficits, such as challenges in problem solving, communication, or conflict management. Once these deficits are identified, teachers develop targeted social skills groups, organizing students based on commonalities in their needs. Instruction is then tailored to address these specific skills with complex behaviors, like resolving peer conflict, being broken down into smaller, teachable steps. This method ensures that students experience success at each stage of learning. Teachers also consider the various contexts in which social skills are required, designing examples, non examples, and role playing scenarios that help students generalize their skills across different environments. These examples are crafted with attention to students' cultural backgrounds, ages, and natural environments, ensuring relevance and effectiveness. For instance, when teaching greeting behaviors, teachers might include scenarios ranging from formal business handshakes to casual verbal greetings among friends. Effective instruction in social skills mirrors the core components of academic lesson plans, with a focus on teaching, modeling, and practicing the desired behaviors. All students are engaged throughout the lesson with tasks designed to maintain their attention and participation. Mastery is prompted through the use of positive and corrective feedback that is immediate, consistent, and specific. Scaffolded supports are generally faded as students become more independent in their use of social skills. To ensure that students can apply their newly acquired skills across various settings, teachers provide opportunities for practice in different, authentic contexts. Progress is consistently monitored, with teachers analyzing students' responsiveness to instruction and making adjustments as needed to support ongoing development. School leaders have a vital role in empowering teachers to teach social skills effectively. One way they can do this is by offering instruction, professional development, and coaching tailored to help teachers master effective instructional practices for social skills. This involves teaching educators how to use various data sources to identify students who need social skills instruction, ensuring that the identification process is thorough and accurate. Leaders should also support faculty teams in grouping students based on common social skills needs. By providing additional supports like lesson development and curriculum materials, leaders can ensure that teachers have the resources they need to deliver effective instruction. Regular meetings focused on progress monitoring and data collection are crucial as they give teachers and teams the opportunity to evaluate student progress and address any emerging needs among staff. If the school has established a set of school-wide expectations, leaders can guide teachers in linking their social skills lessons to these expectations. This helps ensure that the lessons are consistent with the broader school environment, making it easier for students to generalize and apply what they learn across different settings. Interacting effectively with adults and peers, along with managing one's own behavior, is crucial for student success. However, students with disabilities often face unique challenges in mastering these social skills, unlike their typically developing peers. This makes explicit instruction in social skills not just beneficial, but essential. Research shows that social skill instruction is effective across various stages of development, from preschool through adulthood, and benefits students dealing with a range of social skill challenges and disabilities. The evidence strongly supports that when social skill instruction is combined with strategies to help students generalize these skills to different contexts, it significantly enhances their social emotional functioning. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Join us next week when Heather sits down with our school psychologist, Lathrell Eiler, to talk about our next high leverage practice.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow @Threshold Learning TLC on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. Let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that they catch their podcast. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certification and universities preparing them for success. Supervision with TLC offers 100% remote fieldwork supervision designed specifically for school-based professionals. Educators can earn their hours right in their schools without leaving their classroom, all while being supported by experienced BCBAs who understand the realities of education. With month-to-month scheduling, affordable rates, and both live video and asynchronous chat, our fieldwork supervision model is designed to fit into your life, not the other way around. We also invite universities to enhance their graduate programs in partnership with our team of practicing school-based BCBAs. Our fieldwork supervision model keeps students on track for certification by helping them connect their practice to all exam domains so that they can confidently pass the exam. Explore more at university.thresholdlearning.org/supervision or email supervision@thresholdlearning.org to connect. Supervision with TLC, where educators grow into behavior analysts.